Into the Lori Vallow Daybell trial ahead of closing arguments. Criminal defense attorney Adam Ashby here with us this morning. You know, just to kick things off, Adam, this is such an odd case. To see Lori decide to represent herself, that alone is just different.
It's different. I've given the analogy before to many people that have asked me. It's kind of like trying to remove your own root canal, right? Yeah. It's nothing that you would ever recommend. The potential danger and side effects could be extreme, but could you do it? Yes, you really could. It's different in the fact that a lawyer provides insulation for their client on many avenues, a lot of it based on legal knowledge, court procedure, court precedent, but also from potential juror bias. And when you don't have that insulation, you're exposing yourself to jurors feeling a certain way on a much more extreme level, and that could be dangerous.
You know, one of the interesting things that we saw during this trial is her lash out frequently. Whether it was a witness, we saw her lash out at a judge. So, you know, you're talking about that I guess, lawyer insulating. So I would imagine that the lawyer would also help with some of that emotional. You know, you have a jury watching her lash out. I would imagine that they could be sitting there thinking, well, you know what? Look at her. She's lashing out. Maybe she did do it.
Absolutely. That insulation that the lawyer provides with every single witness or person that they're cross-examining or direct examining, you're very strategic and very direct on what you're looking for out of this specific witness. You never want to go down paths or avenues that doesn't get you to your end goal. And she, unfortunately, is incapable of doing that because a lot of this is emotional for her, right? A lot of these people are personal in her life. This is her
former husband, for goodness sakes, that we're talking about, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so when you were looking at this case specifically, I mean, you have represented women who have been accused of killing husbands. Like, you know these kinds of cases. This one in particular, when you look at what Lori has done and when you look at what the prosecution has done over the last couple of days, how has the prosecution presented their case in your eyes? What kind of job do you think they've done?
I think they've done a very good job on laying a foundation. I think that the biggest thing that I've seen that the prosecution do is they presented many motives that she could have potentially had, whether it's financial, whether there's a religious component, whether it's a different marriage and a different relationship component. But they've done a good job to give enough to the jury to bite onto. But then I also think they've done a good job at showing that self-defense is going to be a reach. Obviously, that is Lori's defense, right? Is she's saying that this killing, not only it happened, but that it was justified. That's what she's laying her case on. And I think the prosecution has done a good job showing that that actually isn't the case.
How does it come into play with her case in Idaho? I mean, she's already been convicted of killing her 2 kids.
Right.
You know, I mean, the jury, I would imagine, probably doesn't need to take that into account or shouldn't, but I mean, she's already been convicted. How do you then, I guess, walk into this case and be like, well, she didn't do this. This was self-defense. She was already convicted of killing her 2 kids.
Yeah, so that's actually been heavily pre-litigated. So the jury supposedly is not supposed to know about that.
Which, how do you know? This is Lori Vallow Daybell, for goodness sakes, right?
I know. It's the most covered Dateline story ever.
Multiple.
Right? It's difficult. So if they do know about it, they are told by the judge on multiple occasions that they're not supposed to take it into account. But that's part of the issue, too, of representing herself. The biggest exposure she has is there's many things that have been pre-litigated saying this cannot enter the trial. However, if she opens the door to potential information herself, for instance, why is her daughter Tylee not taking the stand? She was one of the witnesses to this crime.
Oh, Adam, that's interesting.
The juror is going to be asking those types of questions, and if she ever opens that door by testifying herself or by asking too many questions, which the judge has been admonishing her a few times, are you sure you want to ask that? You maybe want to stay away from that subject, because if that information enters the trial, then the prosecution can ask whatever questions they want. They can present whatever closing statement they want on saying, it is interesting that Tylee isn't here, right? And that is a big piece of the pie that the jury will latch onto, for sure.
I did not even take that into consideration because that makes so much sense. When you look at what's happened just yesterday, prosecution rested. And then she told the judge that she would want to rest. We're going to have to see if that plays out today because she didn't say it in front of the jury. But why would she say that? Why would she rest her case without calling any witnesses or doing anything?
Yeah, so during pre-litigation, when she was subpoenaing witnesses, she actually didn't subpoena anybody. She had mentioned that she may bring up old witnesses to direct examine them again, which would be fairly repetitive. So I bet that her legal representative and legal advocate told her, you're not going to get any more information that you need out of them, and it will only be repetitive and draw the jurors through more information that they don't need. And maybe that's part of her defense, but I would be shocked, and I may be proven wrong, if she doesn't take the stand herself. Her legal advocate would then be asking questions to her. But I would be shocked if she didn't want to take that opportunity to speak for herself and say whatever she wanted.
I was going to say, what's the difference between her, basically, she's her own attorney, but then she's going to get up there and testify. What's the difference? Like
She's kind of said everything.
She's kind of said everything. You kind of know where she stands, and then she's going to get up there and testify. What more could she say that's going to help her out?
Yeah, when she testifies herself, she's able to say a lot more, right? She's able to bring her own emotions in. Her attorney can ask leading questions, and they can also ask open-ended questions, which will allow her to testify. But that is a two-edged sword, right? Because the prosecution is going to be able to do the same thing. And the prosecution will be able to really hone in on things that she says. And like I said, the exposure that she has is opening the door to things that could really be damning for her in her case, like the cases out of Idaho.
Was there any positive? Was there any pro to her representing herself, or is it all just cons at this point?
Well, I will say this. She's not a stupid person. She's actually very intelligent. She's done a much better job than what I thought she would do. I've been very impressed with her legal phraseology, with the words that she's saying many times, but then she'll have a lot of mess ups where she's testifying through herself, she's badgering witnesses, she's harassing witnesses, things like that. And that's been pretty telling. But I've been impressed with, I just should say more impressed than what I thought she would present as her own attorney. But the only other positive is she's taking the stand without taking the stand and being able to be cross-examined. Right. So I would say the one pro is that she's been able to present a lot of information, a lot of emotional information, without having the risk of being at the stand and being cross-examined. So that's probably the only thing that I can think of.
Interesting. Adam Ashby with Jackson White Law Firm. Thank you so much for coming in and for your perspective. Hopefully we can get even more perspective if we get closing arguments next week. We'll see.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure.